What is life? And how did life start? Has Darwinian evolution explained how life came into existence? Were scientists able to create a synthetic form of life from non-living things like simple bacteria? Were they able to create DNA or RNA? Were scientists able to create the required organic molecules in replicating the prebiotic Earth conditions? Was science able to explain the origin of life? Was it formed in primordial soup, in mud, in hydrothermal vents, or was it formed somewhere else in outer space and landed on Earth? Some people assume that science has already answered all these questions, or are close to answering them all. The truth is that despite all scientific efforts to study the origin of life for more than 70 years, none of these questions have been answered with proof. The supposed findings are still just hypotheses, as yet unproven, and due to new scientific discoveries over these years, the knowledge gap increased, making it even more difficult to prove their hypotheses. In this series of videos, we will discuss the above questions, and describe the relevant scientific achievements and arguments about the origin of life. Defining life. Before talking about the origin of life, it might be helpful to define it first. What is life? Wikipedia describes life as a characteristic that distinguishes physical entities that have biological processes from those that do not, either because such functions have ceased because they've died, or because they never had such functions and are classified as non-living. Various forms of life exist, such as plants, animals, fungi, protists, archaea, and bacteria. There is currently no consensus regarding the definition of life. One popular definition is that organisms are open systems that maintain homeostasis, are composed of cells, have a life cycle, undergo metabolism, can grow, adapt to their environment, respond to stimuli, reproduce, and also evolve. Other definitions sometimes include non-cellular life forms such as viruses. NASA adopted an abstract definition to identify extraterrestrial life as a self-sustained chemical system capable of undergoing Darwinian evolution. However, these definitions mainly focus on the characteristics of a living organism, not what life really is. Atheist scientists have also struggled to settle on a definition of life. In one of the debates about the definition of life, famous atheist scientists such as Richard Dawkins and Craig Venter avoided defining what life is, assuming they can search for other forms of life, or study the origin of life without defining it. Notably, they clearly stated many times during the debate that they simply don't know the definition of life, and that science is so far away from explaining the origin of life. That debate also shows great disagreement within the scientific community on the origin of life, as some of them were optimistic that they would solve the mystery within 20 and 30 years, while others were sure that one would never be able to solve such a mystery. So how can we discuss the origin of something if we don't know what that thing is in the first place? The materialistic point of view. Materialists always try to define everything through physics and chemistry, defining living things as molecules, and abstracting life as chemicals that perform biological processes. So their main assumption is that if we were able to recreate or fabricate the chemistry required for life, the molecular building blocks, then life can evolve accordingly, having life from non-life. This assumption, however, is facing a lot of difficulties. Firstly, they're ignoring a lot of non-materialistic aspects of life that need explanation, like emotions, morals, consciousness, imagination, arts, intelligence, language, etc. While chemicals and molecules are required for life as the hardware, life is surely over and above that. Nothing convincing has been presented so far to explain how these aspects evolved from only chemical reactions. Secondly, producing organic life from non-organic chemistry has not been achieved so far, and since the Miller-Urey experiment in 1952, results are still extremely far from achieving their goals. Thirdly, identifying the real prebiotic or early Earth conditions to try and replicate the chemistry of life as evidence for the origin of life has also proven difficult and is currently resting on assumptions. Fourthly, identifying the basic form of life, i.e., what's the minimum required abstraction of the living cell to declare that we have a living organism? Fifthly, if we successfully created all the organic life chemistry, how would they be put together in a physical setup? And how was all that done on its own, in a purely unguided unconscious process, just by chance and exorbitant time? Lastly, assuming we have an already formed fully functional cell that just died, so all the chemistry and physics are in place, how would one revive that dead cell and make it alive again? Details about these points will be covered in the arguments that follow. The car argument. Imagine a new car, coming in thousands of different small pieces, spread apart, unordered, with you having no tools at all, no experience, no previous info of what these parts will produce at the end. And now, you should start producing something meaningful that will eventually turn out to be a car. What if these parts were not even all in your vicinity? Some parts are in volcanoes, others in oceans, some buried in the earth, and others are super rare to find. Besides all of this, you don't even know which of these you will need. What if that car also needs to be self-maintaining, like driving on its own and getting its own fuel without any software installed? What about corrosion that might impact these parts before you even finish the task? It'll need some sort of protection. Do you think you will be able to produce that car, ever? Humans, as intelligent beings, would find this task impossible. And yet, materialists are assuming that this type of process just happened coincidentally, unguided, randomly, without intelligent assistance, to form a living cell. Other scientific points of view. A lot of scientists are not convinced by the materialistic point of view concerning the definition, or origin, of life. One example is Paul Davies, an agnostic scientist who explained in one of his lectures his vision of biology as being information. That it is all about coding, signals, and instructions, while physics and chemistry are about matter, force, and energy. He stated that life is surely more than just chemistry and physics. He also stated that to be able to answer how life originated, we need to answer these questions first. 1. How does software emerge from hardware? 2. How do non-trivial programmable constructions emerge from dumb molecules? 3. How can digital information storage and processing emerge from analog information? 4. How does instructional or contextual information emerge from mere bits, the Shannon information? And 5. How does top-down information flow emerge from bottom-up information flow? Other scientists, such as John Lennox and Stephen Meyer, have used that same analogy of software and hardware many times, pointing out how cells are full of information, and since information can't be generated on its own unless invoked by an external intelligent agent, then there must be an intelligent designer who encoded the living cells. The Christian point of view. According to the Christian faith, we believe that God created all living organisms, that God is the source of life, and is life itself. Therefore, life has no meaning without God. John 1 verse 4 says, "In him was life." In John 14 verse 6, Jesus answered a question with, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life." Also, the book of Acts spoke about Jesus as the author of life, in chapter 3 verse 15. We don't know how God created all living organisms, but the general blueprint in Genesis 1 clearly states that God blessed the living creatures to be fruitful and to increase in number, in other words, to reproduce. What if scientists succeed in producing living organisms from non-living matter? The idea behind the materialistic point of view is that if we can have life emerging from non-life, then there's no need to have a God, and the argument used by religious people that God is the source of life will be rebutted accordingly. However, that would still be a logical fallacy because such an experiment, even if it claimed that it mimics natural causes in prebiotic Earth, would still be designed and guided by intelligent humans. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed our video, don't forget to click the like and subscribe buttons below.